Hey everybody, Chief Meteorologist Brad Panovich here. We're tracking the threat for some strong to severe storms coming in late tonight and really early Wednesday. Wednesday's the height of this. The big story to me, honestly, is the winds. Now, there is going to be some isolated rotation. We'll talk about the tornado risk, but the thing I want to stress here, even though there's a line of storms, we're going to see strong winds even outside of these thunderstorms. And I'll talk about why there's so much wind energy coming in. But let's start with the wide view first here. You can see our storm system lurking to our west, producing severe weather already this morning. Big storm system. I mean, this is a potent late winter, early spring system, very typical of March. March, by the way, is wild. It's always wild. People always say, this is crazy weather. It's like we can't decide what season it is. That is literally March in a nutshell. The only thing that's normal about March is that it's all over the place and it's not normal. Abnormality is the normality when it comes to March weather. Because if you think about March, it really is a blend of winter and spring. And because of that strong jet stream and warmer air moving in for the spring, you tend to get crazy weather. So there's our system right now. Let's quickly turn off some of the data here. We'll start looking at some of the severe weather outlooks here. We'll look at day one, which is going to be today. We'll throw that up and you'll see day one. We're going to have that risk of severe storms to our south and our west. There's a look at it right now. I have the lightning data on so you can kind of see that's a severe thunderstorm watch. That's a tornado watch. So you see how close it gets. Tomorrow, the risk starts to shift into the Carolinas. And you can see we have now introduced a higher risk of severe storms. In this area right here in red, this is an area in particular that I'm watching for tornadic cells. If we're going to see tornadoes develop tomorrow or the potential for tornadoes, it's going to be in that area in red because we should get some heating by the time the line gets here. If you think about the line, it's going to be coming in from the west in the morning. So it's cool here, still a risk of severe weather, but it gets here during peak heating of the day. And that's why we have the risk of isolated tornadoes, possibly some supercells. So that kind of highlights the risk as we look at the overall outlook. I'm going to look at the tornado probability just because I like to show this. The light green is the 2% tornado probability. The brown, that's the 5% chance. So you're looking at a 5% chance within 25 miles of any point on the map. So pretty elevated tornado risk. But let's look at the wind probabilities tomorrow. You can see 10, 15, and 30% probability. So pretty significant probabilities of damaging winds. Even day one, you can see that risk moving in from the west. So you kind of see there's a jump over from the system tonight into early tomorrow, and the Western Carolinas might get lucky because of the timing of all this. But let's break it down even further. All right, we'll dive right into the Futurecast here. So a couple things are going to happen. You can see the squall line. It's already ongoing. We can see it on radar and satellite right now. But what happens today during the day, basically what amounts to a warm front is going to be pushing north. And really strong low-level winds, especially just ahead of this. We call this the low-level jet. It's around 5,000 feet. These winds are absolutely going to be ripping up here as this approaches from the west. So we'll go into tonight. You can see this is 8 o'clock. We could even see, because of that low-level jet, just the flow of air coming from the south is picking up moisture. Good news for the fires. We could use some of this moisture. Starts moving moisture into the Carolinas. So don't be surprised if we see some showers, especially on the southeastern facing slopes of the mountains as soon as this evening. So we'll get into the overnight hours. We're roughly around midnight. That's still a potent squall line, even without heating of the day, meaning it's cooling off here. We've got so much of that wind energy, strong southerly flow here on the backside, this flow. So this line of showers and storms, even if it's not as strong as it would be if it was 70 or 75 degrees with a 60-degree dew point, those winds are able to mix down to the surface just because of the heavy precipitation or rain. So notice the line does weaken. This is about 3:45 in the morning. We'll get to about 5, 6 a.m. There's the line approaching from the west. The good news here is, yeah, it's in the morning because it's cooler. That helps us out. The bad news, it's during the morning rush. So it's this catch-22, right? We don't want storms in the morning, but this is ideal for them being not as strong because right up here, you see the time, 6:30 a.m. If that was about 2:30 p.m., boy, would we be in trouble. Or even 1 or 12, anywhere near the afternoon hours, we would have the potential for some damaging winds. Even so, we're going to have damaging winds, but more of a severe weather risk. So 8:30, it's moving over most of the Piedmont. Now, this is where things get a little more dicey. We get to eastern North Carolina. Heating of the day starts taking place. We're almost at 10:30 now. And one thing I'm watching is see these cells trying to pop out ahead of it. Do we get isolated cells ahead of the main line? And there's some potential there, but even within the line, we might see more what we call, QLCS, line echo wave pattern developing. Basically, little squiggles in the line that produce rotation. And here we are at 110, 111. So Peak heating is occurring right here. Here's 2 o'clock. And again, this is, this is during the warmest part of the day now. So east of I-95, that's where we're concerned for the potential for some isolated supercells, maybe, and even rotating storms. Now, the front itself comes in. There's indication there might be a few cells here. I'm not buying too much into this. The shear, it becomes all unidirectional from the same direction and not much of a risk. And again, I don't think we'll have much to worry about with the backside of this, though there could be a few showers, especially up in Virginia. Now, mind you, this is probably going to be snow coming into the mountains later tonight because this is really cold air pushing in. But there's so much wind energy with this. I want to show you the 850-mile-an-hour winds up around 5,000 feet. Look at those winds. I mean, right over the Charlotte area, 67 knots. I mean, these are at 5,000 feet, mind you. But if any of that mixes down to the surface, we're getting strong winds with this line tomorrow morning. And then when it pushes through, the winds shift to the west, to northwest on the backside, and that's where we see strong winds in the mountains, well over 50 or 60 knots. Those actually could be even higher on the backside. So there is a boatload of wind with this system. Now let's talk about that tornado risk. This is a product I show often during severe weather season. These are the rotational tracks, basically where the guidance or the model thinks we're going to have rotating thunderstorms. Now, you can't read too much into this and say that's exactly where it's going to be. I always look for the number of tracks and basically the density, like how many do we have and how close together they are. There's likely going to be some rotating storms here in eastern North Carolina, and western North Carolina, not as much. So probably more straight line winds. And in that same vein, straight line winds, this is a look at the wind swath. So basically the maximum wind gusts that we're expecting from this system. And if you look across the Piedmont, you see some of these embedded areas where we could see gusts over 50 miles per hour, and in the mountains even higher. But that's what you expect. That's why there's high wind warnings up for the mountains. So very, very windy system, regardless of the thunderstorms tomorrow, which is a big part of tomorrow. There's going to be a boatload of wind on Wednesday. So probably best to secure any loose items in your yard today. Make sure everything is secure. Charge everything up, because there's a possibility a branch, a tree takes a power line down, that we could see scattered power outages. And right now for the Western Carolinas, less of a tornado risk than the Eastern Carolinas. That's what we're looking at right now. Let me quickly show you the timing graphic I made yesterday, because it still holds true. So leaving you with the storm timing, dark red, 4 to 7 a.m., 8 to 10 a.m. here in the middle, and then towards central and eastern North Carolina, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. and after. So that kind of gives you a timing. Stay weather aware, stay weather alert. Make sure you charge up those phones and you have an app ready to go, because early morning, we're going to see these storms barreling in.